Hey guys, welcome back. I am here to talk about self care today. My intention is that, we all get a little bit more educated on what self care is, what it is not, and just looking at self care through my lens and through the research that I've done. So for me, self care is really self preservation, and Audre Lorde said that best, and that's where I got that idea from. But when I first got into self care, I thought self care was just like face mask and getting my toes done, like maintenance care. I thought that self care was maintenance care, which is like it can be things that make you feel better about yourself, but self care is like so much deeper than that. And I want to start off by talking about Ubuntu philosophy, which is practiced within African spiritual traditions or African traditional religions. And Ubuntu means I am because we are. And self care is something that needs an emphasis on community, like interdependence and relying on interdependence is also self care, like community. When you take care of yourself, you're able to help other people as well. Like, you ever hear the saying, like, you can't pour from an empty cup? You can't pour from a cup that's not there if you don't even have the cup, too. But, like, I truly think that not only is community, like, self care is community oriented in the best sense, but also self care needs to be like, I take care of myself, you take care of yourself, and we all take care of each other. So like that's what community really is. Like individualism has really no space in self-care because you can do all the face masks you want to do and you can paint as many of your nails as you want to paint and hang out with your friends and do all of that. Well, I wouldn't say hang out with your friends, but let's just stay with those first two examples for now. That is fine, but you're never really going to get a sense of fulfillment because self-care and individualism is not really, they don't go hand in hand. They don't go together at all. Like individualism is more of the Western view of things, specifically within spirituality, in a sense of everything else as well. Like my money is my money, your money is your money, my things are my things, your things are your things. Like white people in Western society definitely emphasize that shit hard. And I'm like, girl, like we can't survive without each other. Like any creator or celebrity or anybody, they couldn't do what they need to do without the support of other people, and with self-care it's like you do need to pour into yourself. So self-care does look like saying no, spending meaningful time with your community, having fun, going out with your friends. Also self-care is having those tough conversations with not only yourself but your friends. So like if you feel like you can't have a tough conversation with one of your close friends, then you guys are not really caring for each other in the way that you should in community. Like for friends and for family, you should be able to have tough conversations with them. Not saying you bombard them and be like, listen to what I'm saying right now, no. But you should be able to call them in. Like, I don't know if you guys have heard about this idea of calling in versus calling out, but you call people in so that they can come together and, become better and do better, So that's also what I want to do here, call people in, We also, other forms of self-care is like routines, rituals as well. So for example, myself, I have a Sunday routine where a Sunday I'll get up early, I'll like sit in my bed for a little bit, and then I'll have a slow morning, right? And it's not even that like the things that I do in the morning is the self-care. Like I'll do a face mask, I'll give myself affirmation, I'll say affirmations in the mirror, I'll make sure to eat, get some tea, read a book, relax, like that Sunday and get the things done that I need to. But it's not even that those little things are the self-care. It's really the fact that I decided to pour into myself. The things come into it, but it's the intention that is going into it. Like I'm intentionally gonna have a slow morning and I'm gonna intentionally like not overload my nervous system, and I'm going to give myself what I need. And when I say self-preservation, it's like it can also look like saying no. So if you have nothing in your cup, you have nothing to give. And I'm speaking to black women too. I'm looking at you. If you have nothing to give, if you are struggling mentally, if you are going through things, like, you can't give nothing to nobody else. You're pouring from something that you need. So in order for us to be productive and loving members of our societies, we have to pour into ourselves. We have to love ourselves. Self-care for me is love. Like, I'm intentionally setting aside this time for me to be present with myself. Self-care is also movement in your body. So a part of that routine is also doing some yoga or some exercise. And it's not even that, like, and I'll go back to this point, like, it's not even that the yoga and the exercise are the self-care. Like, it is, because you're taking care of your physical body, but really it's the intention and the time that you're putting into the task, because you know it will pour into you. You're putting time, anything that you're pouring, that is pouring back into you, is a version of self-care, because you are preserving yourself. So I'm saying, like, if you can't pour from an empty cup, you can't pour from a cup that has nothing in it, metaphorically speaking, like, that is preserving what you have left, the mental capacity or the energy that you have left. You are preserving it for you, because you need it. Like, your cup has to be full for yourself, right? And for me, like, I'm a recovering people pleaser. And I've always just felt like, if I know how to fix it, like, I'm gonna try to fix it. I'm also a middle child. So there's a lot of times where I'll take on other people's issues, and then I'm also empathetic, so they become my issues and I really feel them. And that's not community. It's not community, because I was drained all the time, and I was sad. And I'm really realizing that we all have to take care of ourselves. It's not individualistic to say no and to take care of yourself. It's actually necessary, because you can't be everything to everybody. That quote was also from J. Cole in Sacrifices, with him, Saba, Smino, Earthgate. And it's a beautiful song. You should listen to it. But you can't be everything to everybody. And, like, I grew up seeing a lot of the other women in my family, a lot of other people being everything to everybody. And so I just assumed that role, like, I'm gonna take care of everybody. That's impossible. You can't do that. And I'm still learning that myself too, because as an advocate, I want to advocate for everything. And you got to start somewhere and then build on that. So with your self-care, your self-love, you have to start with you. It begins with you. But it doesn't end with you. It starts with you, and you're building up, but you're building up to be a part of this society, to be a part of this community that cares for you too. So when black people say, like, it takes a village, and I was raised by my village, that's because there's a lot of people within that village that are taking responsibility. They're intentionally raising you. They're intentionally doing these things. They're intentionally caring for you, right? And you want to be able to give back and do that in the same way. Like, self-care also, like, not also, self-care is like giving back. Like, for you to be someone who volunteers at different, like, shelters to give people what they need, whether it's soup kitchens, homeless shelters, or like educating people on things, and just pouring into your community. Pouring back into your community is also self-care, because your community is going to pour back into you. Everything is connected, everything is cyclical. And as a part of society, we've gotten far away from community for real. you know a lot of people feel like, because it doesn't affect them, something doesn't affect them, it's not their problem. But we all live in the same place. Some people have more money than others, but we all live on earth, and we're all human. So money is not going to save you at the end of the day. Your community might. You never know. And I'm pretty sure they will. Like, self-care is much deeper than what the media paints it out to be. A lot, when I got into this journey, I would see a lot on Pinterest. I'm like, oh, this is cute. Like, let me do this, let me do that, let me do this. But it's also consumption based too, because when I'm talking about your maintenance day, you're spending hella money, hundreds of dollars on your hair, your nails, your makeup, to be fulfilled. Those are all things that are in vain. It's nothing wrong with feeling good and looking good. That's also a part of the overall thing, the overall picture. But also, when you focus too deeply on just that, you're missing what that's supposed to do for you, really, because it's not supposed to make you feel whole. You should already feel whole. It's like adding on to what is already there, right? And that's why, wearing certain things or dressing a certain way or looking a certain way won't necessarily like create love in your heart. You have to start with you, and it also starts within. Like, self-care also looks like going to therapy. That's one of the biggest things, like going to therapy and talking to someone about the things that you've been through. Specifically within the Black community, there's stigmas around therapy, but there's really no reason to be. I won't say there's no reason to be scared. Plenty of reason to be scared, especially with where we live in America, and also the racist history of therapy. And when you were mentally ill, you were classified as someone who was less human. You were put in terrible places. You were tortured. Um, a lot of the disabled community still suffers with that legacy to this day, and I know the Black people still do suffer with the legacy to this day. I mean, look at what I'm doing right now. You know, it's valid for you to be a little skeptical of therapy. You should be skeptical of all things. But therapy is one of those things where it's worth the shot. It's worth the try. I went to therapy. I've been in therapy for like 2 years now. Well, before that, I went to therapy in high school too. But I've been in therapy for like 2 years now, and it's completely shifted my view on things, and you don't go into therapy to be a whole new person, but therapy brings you closer to who you are, brings you back to your center. So it directly adds to your self-care. When you're deciding to talk about what's bothering you, find solutions to free you from things that you're going through, things that you're suffering from, that is self-care. You're putting the energy into loving yourself. If you are repeating the same patterns because you were traumatized when you were a child, like, talking about the patterns and talking about the things will help you grow from it. And I know sometimes in our community we're like, oh, don't, let's not talk about it. But we need to talk about it, because if we don't, we genuinely can never heal from it. And there's a lot of things that we need to talk about, but we're just speaking on this right now. And go to therapy if you can. If you can't afford it, like, I've been on the hunt for some resources to help like other people get therapy without needing to pay for it, because it should be all right. Therapists should be paid, but it shouldn't be something that's so expensive for people. And yeah, therapy, we love therapy, go to therapy. And self-care is also having fun. Self-care is not just, it can also look like, journaling too. So if you're not too sure about therapy, you should journal too, even if you are in therapy. But if you're not too sure about it, I think you should start talking to yourself. People tell you you're crazy. If you talk to yourself, you're schizophrenic. No. You need to know what your inner voice sounds like, so you can distinguish between when somebody's telling you something and how you really feel about it. You shouldn't solely go off what other people are telling you, or and instead, not or, you should listen to yourself and trust your intuition. But you can't trust your intuition if you don't know what it sounds like. You don't know what it looks like when you are listening to your mind. That means you have to also think about, like, how am I feeling? Because your feelings are indicators, so they'll tell you something. They're inputs. So when you start to feel sad or something, it's telling you, because something is either triggering you, something's making you sad. And spending time on understanding what that means and what those triggers are for you will change your life. It will. Because then you're not the same person as you was before. You're not going to continue to react in the same way that you would have previously, because you understand what your triggers are and you can now see it. So yeah, I was going to say one of my triggers, but I can't remember right now. But yes, if you guys don't understand what I mean, let me know and I'll clarify in the comments as well. But the closer you get to understanding yourself and knowing what you need and honoring your needs, the more you can pour back into community, and your community will pour back into you as well. Also, you will learn a lot from your community. And in order for you to be able to take criticism, in order for you to absorb what is being taught to you, you need to know like who you are and know if you're someone who doesn't absorb well, like why. Like, does someone say something that triggers me? You know, why are you someone that disassociates? Like, have you like thought about why you're disassociating? Like, do you feel safe? You know, and all these things are self-care. Like, the more time you spend with yourself, whether it's through movement, whether it's through affirmations like mirror work and journaling, lots of different ways that you can come closer to your center, having fun, going out to the club, having a game night, having your friends over, going to your friends, twerking, smoking, drinking, like not in excess, of course, everything in moderation, but you know, these can all be things that make you happy, that will add to your self-care. Like, they can be. You know, when you're using them as tools to get closer to yourself and to stay close and connected to your community, these can be used as tools. Like, genuinely. Like, you ever be so stressed? You know those memes that always say, like, oh, all I really needed was to see my friends. You did. Seriously. Seriously. You gain so much, so many rich experiences from hanging out with your friends and listening to them, understanding what they're going through, and helping them. You know, I'm not saying you got to be fix it Felix all the time, but helping them and taking the time to understand them, to really see what it is that they're going through, and to just spend intentional time together. Really, the root of spirituality and really how you get into your self-care is setting intentional time to be with yourself or to be with your friends and things like that. A lot of people are afraid to be alone. Exactly, yes. So I realized what my trigger was, well, one of my triggers were like, I would hold on to people for too long and allow people to stick around in my life or stick around in other people's lives too long because I was afraid of being alone, you know, afraid of being abandoned. And I had to sit with that, realize that, like, you know, the codependency was there because of that fear. And it was triggered in different ways, but it's like, I would not be able to move from that unless I sat and really recognized, like, what is going on? Like, why do I feel the way I do? And why do I keep ending up in relationships, whether it's platonic or romantic, that, you know, are codependent? You know, I'm afraid to be, I was afraid to be alone. You know, I'm not in that space anymore, luckily, but I was afraid to be alone. And I wouldn't have known that unless I like had those conversations with my therapist and sat and thought about why I was feeling what I was feeling. You know, why was I feeling like I was going to be abandoned? Why was I feeling like fear surrounding these things? You got to do the inner work. You got to look within. Also, meditation is a great tool too. Meditation will definitely allow you to explore the depths of your mind, the depths of what you're going through, the reality. And you know, you can get messages through meditation as well. But what I was going to say is some people are afraid of being alone. A lot of us are afraid of being alone. And I recognize that. And I'm holding space for y'all. And I'm holding space for my past self as well, because it's understandable. Like, who wants to be alone? No one wants to be alone. And that's why we stick around too long. That's why we stay in relationships when we shouldn't. But there's nothing wrong with being alone. Like, you need to be alone sometimes. Like, I'm not talking about self-care in a community sense just to say that you should only spend time with community. It's not going to work if you are never alone, because you need to understand what it is you like, what it is you want. You know, you got to go in that hermit mode for a little bit. You know, I won't say a little bit, for however long you need to really like get closer to your center, your soul, like who you are as a person. Because if not, then when you get in those communal spaces, you're not going to show up as the person that you should. And your community needs you. We all need each other. And we often forget that because of the individualistic society that we lived in. But we cannot survive without each other. We never could, never will be able to. So it's important for you to pay attention and to care how you're showing up in community, because we need you. We need you to love yourself so that the things that need to take place can take place. I need to love myself. Like, even with this YouTube journey, I wouldn't be able to start it and be the person I am today if I did not love myself and take the time to do that. And now, I'm seeking community, seeking people that are like-minded and are looking for the types of things that I can provide. And I know that it's there, and I'm not worried about that. But I know that I have to work on myself in order for me to show up as the best version of myself. And that's for me and the community. The community needs it too, but I need it for me. And that's really where we have to be with it. And also going out in nature, that's another good tip. Like, being present, just being present with yourself, being present in the moment. Literally, self-care can be way more than what you see. And it's important to not be judgmental, but it's important to do things that honor your health too. Health is a big part of self-care too. You can't, love and light your way out of, mental illness. A lot of people will say that, you just, be happy if you're depressed. Like, that's not how it works. It's chemical imbalances. There's things that are going on. These are serious illnesses, and I do understand that. And staying on top of your health is one of the it's of the utmost importance. Like, I cannot show up as my full self if I'm sick and I'm going through it as well, because not only am I harming myself, but I could also harm my community, whether that's me going through mental issues. And there's nothing wrong with having mental disorders, because it's not your fault at all. Like I said, these are disease disorders, chemical imbalances, things that you cannot control. But it's important to know that putting off those doctor's calls and putting off going to the doctor and putting off figuring out where you stand health wise, it's not doing anything for your self-care. It's actually stressing you out. It actually is going to kind of counteract what you're doing. I mean, if you have a chronic illness, like, that's different. Your self-care looks different than what it could look for other people, but not really, because you're still just spending intentional time. But really, like, staying on top of it regardless of who you are, what you have going on. And I'll say, in our community, like the Black community, we have a reason to be afraid of the doctors. We have a reason to have reservations, but we have to take care of ourselves. We don't deserve to just die out and just suffer. We don't. We deserve to be seen, heard, and accommodated. And it's important for you to take care of your health. And me too. I have health anxiety, so when it comes to making that call or going to that appointment, my heart do be thumping. But you have to do it. You have to, because you want to live. We want you to live. You all deserve to live, be here. So you gotta take care of your health. Like, self-care is so many things, and it's not just limited to what you may see online, because your self-care may look different than my self-care. Like, maybe you like to play Sudoku. Maybe you play solitaire, and that calms you down. You never know. But when you spend that intentional time, and the intention is, like, you want to be present with yourself, you want to understand yourself more, and you're working on those inner parts of yourself, whether it's things that were holding you back, things that you want to do. Like, when you're being present with all of you, things will shift, and you'll see the shift. You'll feel different. Things may feel easier, it may feel more difficult too, because the journey is never easy, but self-care is so necessary. So necessary. And this is a hill I will die on. I will. And I'm sure I'll revisit this topic on my page for sure, but I also want to give some tips for the girlies who have anxiety. So if you're in a situation and you're feeling anxious and your heart starts beating, what I used to do that helped me was I would, like, rub right here on my chest and take deep breaths, or, like, sometimes here, so I can calm my attention somewhere else other than what is the thoughts that are circling in my head. Also, breath work really does work. Like, taking deep breaths really does work. Also, try diaphragmatic breathing, which is like, when you inhale, your stomach goes out, and when you exhale, your stomach goes in. So it's kind of like that opposite motion keeps you present in the moment so that you are actually like relaxing. And also, when you're meditating, if your mind wanders, that's okay. Practice meditation, even if you feel like you don't think you're good at it or you don't know what it's supposed to look like. Literally, just being present in the moment. Like, your self care can also look at playing video games. It can look like playing video games. It look like knitting. It can look like going to the strip club. It can look like all these different things. And I want you to know that that's valid. And you don't have to be like everyone else, but you do have to take care of yourself. And then also, how could I forget? You need to eat. That's tied with health. You need to eat 3 times a day. Meals that nourish you. The girls my age and girls gender neutral. We're not eating as much as we should. We're not. And part of that is the ultra processed foods as well that we have so accessible to us, but we're not eating as much as we should. And that is a part of self care as well. Sleeping, getting your 7 to 8 hours of sleep a night, eating, taking care of yourself, grooming yourself, exploring your spiritual side, your spirituality, connecting yourself to something higher. Those are so, so important for self care. And yes, like, I love it. And then as far as any other tips that I have, it would definitely be the breath work, this one right here, and being honest with your friends. Like, if you're going through it, girl, I'm going through it. Say, I'm going through it. Or if you don't want to share it with someone in particular, although I do say everyone should have at least someone that they can speak to, that they trust. And if not, make it yourself. Talk to yourself. Write in that journal. Literally in my journal, I'll be like, hey, girl. And then I'll just start writing. There's not as many rules as you think. But it is important for you to do the things that I did talk about. Like, taking care of yourself. Because going back to the idea of self-preservation that I mentioned in the beginning of the video, you will not live long if you're not. You will not survive. You may survive, but you won't have that fulfillment that you may be looking for through other things if you're not doing the self-care. So, yes. But thank you guys for listening. This was so fun. I had to get on here because my makeup was really eating today, and it looks like a real natural beat. It is a real natural beat. That's typically what I do, but yeah, the sun was out. The birds were chirping. I was like, let me come on here and talk my shit a little bit. So, yes. But I hope you guys are doing well. I'm excited to meet all of you. And yeah, I don't think I'm gonna do too much editing on this video. I'm gonna just see what it gives. But yeah, yeah, thank you guys. I'll talk to you soon. So have a good day and be safe.